Hey, it's John here, the messy cook. We also got Kobe, the messy dog. He's there to pick up the scraps. Today we're going to make Spanish empanadas, a great pastry-filled meat appetizer or main meal if you want. It's very easy. It's not a lot of ingredients, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, we're going to start with our ingredients. We have 2 pounds of ground beef. I've quadrupled this recipe because I find that one recipe does not get enough filling for my liking for these empanadas fillings. I'm just going to use regular canned tomato sauce. I have some Sazon Goya seasoning with coriander and annatto. We have some oregano. We have the Goya Sofrito. You can buy this at any store. We're going to get to the amounts of that. You need oil for frying. And then I use the Goya empanada doughs. Now they have a 5-inch and a 6-inch dough size. They also have a dough that has annatto in it. That is for color when frying. I don't have a preference of either. And the size just is a preference for you, how big you want the empanadas to be. Again, they have 5- and 6-inch size rounds for empanada fillings, and the annatto color just gives you a little color when frying. Okay, we're going to start to make the filling now. I've got my Ninja diamond-coated frying pan here. I know most of you probably don't have a pan like that, but if you have a really good, nice, heavy nonstick pan, that's really all you need. Okay, the first thing we're going to do here, we're going to add in our ground beef. And you want to just get that mashing up, and we're just going to brown that so it's nice and browned. Okay, now after about 5 minutes here, it's getting nice and browned. You can add the onions in at this point, but you don't want to add any of the other ingredients in until you make sure that all of the meat is browned. Once you start adding tomato sauce and whatnot, that browning process will stop. So you want to make sure that you at least get the onions can be in there because they're going to cook in some of that oil. You're also going to not drain the fat off the ground beef. That fat is going to factor into the flavoring of the mixture, as well as help cook the onions into this mixture as well and get them nice and translucent. So you want to get those onions cooking approximately about 5 minutes. Okay, we've got our onions nice and translucent there. You can see that. And they're cooking in the fat from the ground beef. We're now basically just going to add everything else in. So we've got that on medium heat. We're going to add our garlic. We have here the Sazon. It looks like this. The packets come out of the box and they look like this. I've emptied 4 packets into this container. One recipe calls for 1 packet, but like I said previously, I'm making 4 recipes because I just don't think it makes enough filling. So we're going to add that in. We're going to add our 8 tablespoons of the Goya Sofrito. Put that in there like that. Get that scraped out. We're going to add a 1/4 cup, but times 4, so 1 cup of tomato sauce. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of oregano. I'm going to add that in. There's our 2nd teaspoon of oregano. And now we're going to get this all mixing in. And you're starting to see what this filling is going to look like. Messy cook. And we're going to let this cook down. It's going to start to, after about 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to start to get thick. Start to thicken up a little bit. And as it sits, it's also going to thicken as well. So we've got that nice seasoning there. We're also going to add, I just add salt and pepper to taste. This one doesn't really need a lot of salt because it's got a lot of sodium and whatnot from those mixtures, the Sazon and the Sofrito. So I personally don't even add any extra salt in myself. And you can add that pepper to taste. It's going to add a little tiny bit of heat, but this filling is just fantastic. So we're going to let that cook down a little bit. You can see it's simmering there, and cook that down about 5-10 minutes. We've now got this filling nice and cooked, ready to go. I've turned off the heat. You can see that it has gotten thicker. If you separate it with a spoon there, it kind of holds its shape a little bit. So that's the kind of thickness you want there from this mixture. Once you're done cooking it here, what I like to do is put it into a bowl. I put it in the refrigerator for a little bit just to get it to start to cool it down so you can work with it, because you don't want it to be this piping hot mixture while you're filling your empanada dough. All right, we're ready to roll up our empanadas and get them working. You see we've got all our ingredients here. We have our wonderful cooled down mix. We have flour. We have a cup that I use as a rolling pin. I'll show you how that works. A little bit of water to seal with the Messy Cook brush. And our Goya empanada pastry doughs. We have the 5-inch here and the 6-inch here. Okay. Next we've got our oil heating up here. I'm going to stick the thermometer in there. You want this to get to about 350, and then you can turn it down to a little bit lower heat. But once you put the empanadas in there to fry, that is going to lower the temperature, so you want to try to maintain that temperature of 350. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to take a little bit of flour, put it on our cutting board, or board, whatever you're using to roll. Then we're going to take our empanada pastry dough, put that on there, and get that kind of floured up there. Then, as I stated, I'm going to use a cup, and basically I'm just going to roll the empanada dough just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more volume. And then I'm going to take some of the filling and I put that on there like so. You want to put as much in there as you can get. We're going to take our brush, get some water, and we're just going to brush half of the semicircle of the empanada dough and then fold it over like this. Make sure it gets nice and sealed. Then we're going to just take a regular fork, crimp the edges of that, and that is what the empanada should look like once it is done and sealed. All right, we see here we've got my stack of raw empanadas that I've made, 5-inch and 6-inch. Got my slotted spoon here that I'm going to use to remove them from the oil. I've got a dish here just lined with paper towels so that we can collect those once they're fried. Then we're going to check our oil here, and it looks like we're just right about where we want to be at 350. A little hotter, that's okay, because once the empanadas go in there, they are going to cool the oil down. I've got it on super low right now, just on low, but I'm going to turn that up a little bit because we want that oil to stay around 350 as best you can. Now we're going to take an empanada. I'm just going to show you this here. I'm going to take one of our empanadas and we're going to just drop it in the oil. Should get a nice bubble there like that. Get our slotted spoon. Now, I usually do 2, sometimes 3 at a time. I'm just going to do this one right now to show what we're looking at here. It's really quickly to usually fry these up once they start to brown. They may also float to the top. Sometimes you get some air inside those empanadas. They might float to the top of the oil, but that's okay. Just make sure you have your slotted spoon there to flip them over, because you want to get them nice, even, and golden brown on both sides. You can kind of see we're starting to get some color there. It's okay if you flip it too early, because you can always flip it back. So we're just going to watch that and let that cook a little bit here. Now, like I said, once they're done, you want to transfer them to this paper towel lined plate, and they should be ready to go. Again, they don't take long to cook. There we're again starting to get, you can start to see the color on that. You don't want them to get too brown. And again, once you start to fry them here, you're going to have your oil drip down a little bit in temperature, so you want to turn that heat up a little bit more. Make sure that maintains that 350, because if you get lower, you're gonna get oil that's kind of seeps into the empanadas, and that's really not what you want there. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Once it's done cooking there, you can pull it out with your slotted spoon and get that transferred here onto your plate, and you have a beautiful cooked fried empanada. Now, I will say on these, I have tried this both ways, and you are able to take a raw empanada and freeze it. I usually wrap them individually. I freeze them in the freezer, and then I have attempted to then pull those out of the freezer and put them into the oil. It does work, and it's very efficient if you want to not have them all fried up at one time, if you want to just pull them out and fry them as needed. But I have tried that. The other way is to take your frozen empanada, or your fried empanadas, and I also wrap those individually and then put those in the freezer. And then when you're ready to eat them, you just pull them out as many as you want at a time. You can either stick them in the microwave or pop them in the oven for a few minutes and get those nice and cooked and ready to go. Okay, I'm going to try something here for those of you that don't like to deep fry things. I'm going to try an air fryer version of the empanada. We've got our air fryer set to the highest temperature, which is 392 on mine. We're going to take Little Chef and just brush it with oil. You want to get that brushed with oil on both sides. Okay, just make sure you get that nice and oiled up. Then we're going to open our basket here and place it in the air fryer. Close that up, and we'll set that timer, I don't know because I've never tried this, for about 7 minutes, and we'll come back and check it. So I will show you here, I do have some filling left over. Just a little bit, enough for maybe 2 empanadas, but if you see, you can see if I hadn't doubled or quadrupled that recipe, I would have not had nearly enough, and I made 20 empanadas. So I made 10 of the 6-inch and 10 of the 5-inch, and I almost did run out of filling. So you can see why you probably need to make double or triple, or like I did, quadruple that recipe. All right, our air fryer just dinged. Let's give this a look-see. And actually, it doesn't look too bad. It's nice and crispy. I think it will work. The only downside to this is that it does take a little bit longer. My air fryer is small. I could probably fit 2 6-inchers in there, maybe 3 of the 5-inch rounds. They do take, it did take all of that 7 minutes, but they are definitely crispy, and I think that would definitely work for someone that wants to do that. Okay, so you see here we've got a stack of 5-inch empanadas and our stack of 6-inch empanadas. You can see they're considerably different in size. Maybe you can't see that, I don't know. Anyway, that's the empanada recipe, and let's give it a try. As I had said, just to reiterate, the best way to store these then is I take each one and I wrap them individually in saran wrap, and then I put them in like a gallon baggie, and I stick those in the freezer. And you don't get freezer burn, and you can pull out one at a time even if you want one. Sometimes if you freeze them all together, you got to pull them all out and thaw them all. This way you can do each one individually and enjoy those as you please. All right, it's time to taste these wonderful bad boys, which this is probably my favorite thing in the whole world. So we got our nice 5-inch empanada here, all cooked and ready to go. Yeah. Oh. Excellent.